Hi, my name is Brittany Ruvalcaba, and to conclude this argument, I will go into specific details about arson. I will first discuss the history of arson and how it came to be. The first signs of arson came about in the early 19th century, when it was against the law to set domestic and commercial premises in any sack of corn, grain, pulse, straw, hay, or wood on fire. This was punishable by death under British law. Now arson has evolved, and since then it went from a wrongful individual act into an effective means of collective violence. Under common law, a person commits arson when the individual willfully burns a dwelling, such as a house or apartment of another person. Nowadays, dwelling isn't a requirement in state statutes. The only requirement is that some type of property is burned, even if it's personal property. The reason arson is a crime is because it's the intent to cause damage upon starting a fire. With that, it's considered a crime. This brings us back to the history of arson. Before dwelling was taken out, the historical common law of arson consisted of 4 elements. The first element is that the fire had to be in or near a dwelling. The second element is that the dwelling had to be owned or rented by another. The third element is the structure itself had to be burned. And lastly, the fourth element is the burning had to be malicious. Overall, in history, the crime of arson was merely limited to the burning of an occupied house. The times have definitely changed. In some states, it is considered arson if you damage property as a result of acting recklessly. Also, it is not necessary to directly set fire to property to be convicted of arson. An individual can be convicted of arson if they took actions that indirectly led to property getting burned. In some states, explosions are considered arson as well. To conclude this discussion on arson, I will end with appropriate punishments for arson. Every state is different with their punishments, and they have divided it into different degrees of severity. Let's start with prison penalties. Certain arson charges lead to prison sentences, especially if there is significant damage done or someone's life was threatened. Depending on the case, if an individual had the intent to kill or harm someone, this could be punished with a life sentence. Now, in fines for arson convictions, they can range from a few $1,000s to $50,000. Now this brings us to the state of Arizona. In the state of Arizona, if a person commits reckless burning by recklessly causing a fire or explosion which results in damage to an occupied structure, it is considered a Class 1 misdemeanor. A Class 1 misdemeanor is the most serious misdemeanor offenses. The punishment that comes with this sentence can be up to 6 months in jail, 3 years of probation, and a $2,500 fine plus subcharges. If a person commits arson of a structure or property by knowingly and unlawfully damaging a structure or property by knowingly causing a fire explosion, it is considered a Class 4 felony. For a Class 4 felony in Arizona, the minimum amount of years in jail is 2, and the maximum amount of years is 3. If a person commits arson of an occupied structure, it's considered a Class 2 felony. Lastly, in a Class 2 felony, the minimum amount of years in prison is 3 years with a max of 10 years. This sentence is more severe compared to the others, and it still varies among states, but this is for the state of Arizona. This concludes our argument on arson.